The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Monday, July 22nd. And today is National Fragile X Awareness Day.
My exes are fragile.
It's also National Penuche Day. That's a dessert, okay? Not to be confused with other things, Rico. I don't want you to start getting all excited. It's also,
I don't get excited.
Yeah, it's not National Penuche Day. It's Penuche Day.
What is that?
You don't know what Penuche is?
No. Tell us.
Mm-hmm. It's also National Mango Day to go along with that Penuche. And it's also National Hammock Day, not to be confused with banana hammocks, apparently.
I do love a hammock.
Yes,
I have some nice ones.
I bet.
Should we hang them up?
Laying around, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above or down below on your screen to see exactly where we live on the internet, and we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to anyone joining us from any one of those platforms. But kicking it off today, that's right, we have the dope dad himself, who is going to ultimately try to make a fast getaway today. But nonetheless, he has a story for us. Apparently, there's some diapers that need to be changed today. That's right, it is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
She's out of diapers, Jason.
Rico still changes diapers.
Thank you, Jason.
Yours?
And
he still changes diapers.
Penuche is a fudge-like candy made from brown sugar, butter, milk, and using no flavorings except for vanilla.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
That's right. You know what that sounds like.
Putting a little vanilla in the chocolate. All right. That's where I came from.
It sounds like Tim Scott.
Oh, man. Low blow. Low blow.
Anyways, my story is coming out of Jason's favorite state of Florida. And according to Benzinga's Rolando Garcia, the latest report from Florida's Office of Medical Marijuana Use, the OMMU, on medical cannabis sales showed the state's number of qualified patients has skyrocketed from 299,044 in January 2020 to 884,531 in July 2024, representing a 195.7 increase. Much to the chagrin of Florida's prohibitionist-in-chief, Governor Ron DeSantis, the news comes as his political forces seek to block a Trulieve-backed cannabis legalization amendment that will be voted on this November election. Garcia said that the Sunshine State's surge in patients comes despite a slight decline in the number of qualified physicians, which dropped from 2,619 to 2,281, which is a 12.9% drop, and the disparity between growing patient numbers and fewer doctors could signal potential challenges in patient care and access. Also, the number of Sunshine State dispensaries has more than tripled from 213 in January 2020 to 656 in July 2024. That's an increase of 208.5%, an explosive growth period fueled mostly by three big box operators, Trulieve, Curaleaf, and Muve. The article states that since early 2020, Florida's THC dispensation grew from 59,436,543 milligrams to 349,307,185 milligrams, 487.6% growth. Low THC cannabis, which is they classify as CBD, has gone from 1.3 million milligrams to about 3.7 milligrams, which is 169% growth. And marijuana informed for smoking from 15,485 ounces to 109,343 ounces, 606% growth. So lots of growth in both sales and consumption in the state of Florida. Breaking the numbers down further, Trulieve has emerged as the dominant player in Florida's medical cannabis market. Surprise, surprise. Since January 2020, the company has expanded from 42 to 140 locations, 233.3% increase. Trulieve's dispensaries have significantly higher sales ratios per store, with each location selling on average 788,664 milligrams of THC and 298 smokable ounces of cannabis. Curaleaf more than doubled its locations from 28 to 62, 121%, with average sales per store slightly lower than Trulieve's. And Muve expanded from 12 to 77 locations, 542% growth, and average sales per store have been much lower than Trulieve and Curaleaf, but they still are expanding in locations there. The article closed out by giving honorable mentions to Air with 65 locations, and Certera Wellness coming in the last place there, 37 to 45 locations, both pulling in negligible average sales per store compared to Trulieve and the others. From a strictly numbers standpoint, it appears Florida's demand for access far exceeds what the current market can sustainably provide. So I don't think anybody with any sort of common sense can see Ron DeSantis fueling this whole green civil war down there, pitting Florida's hemp and marijuana industries against one another as anything but a personal crusade against the will of his own constituents. Not only does Florida legalizing make medical and social sense, but it will also make lots of dollars for investors looking to economically support getting weed for the people, to the people. With this report's release, in addition to last week's leaked pay-for-play WhatsApp messages between DeSantis' team and several hemp industry executives, it looks like Team DeSantis is gearing up to take yet another major L if they continue another one of Meatball Ron's petty crusades. Reality is, over the last year, he's lost to Disney, Nikki Haley, and of course, the big one was Donald Trump. The drive to keep fighting after taking so many consecutive beatings is undeniably admirable. But Ron's got to start thinking about legacy at this point. And it's getting tougher and tougher by the day to see Florida's governor as anything more than a petty-ass loser who sees more value in instigating culture wars than serving the will of his people. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News, America's #1 daily news show. Let's hear from you guys. Meatball Ron and Florida. Florida's on the up and up. Meatball Ron is looking stupider and stupider for this whole crusade against cannabis and legalization.
This is what Aunt Linda meant about you talking about their looks when you had nothing else to go to. Just wanted to throw that out there. Shout out to Aunt Linda.
What's that?
That's funny. She was just saying, you know.
Little callback from last week when Aunt Linda said you'd talk about people's looks. Called him a meatball.
I mean, that. In all fairness, that's fair because that is his name. His name is Meatball Ron. So I don't really.
I was talking about his looks. Yeah.
You know, Jenny's been on one.
I'm going with Donald Trump's nicknames for him.
Jenny's been on one all morning, Rico. So you know what I'm saying.
I know.
Yeah.
I ain't one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm two.
He ain't like them.
Mm-hmm. They not like us. Exactly. No. I feel you.
I'm not.
I'm really disappointed. I mean, I hate to see that Trulieve is monopolizing Florida. Like, I would like to see the people of Florida get something that they deserve, and I don't think that even Florida men deserve to have to be serviced by Trulieve only.
Well, that's why.
Yes, but
Go ahead, Yarrow.
Yes, but
Yes, but
when we
yes,
look
and-
at the year-over-year growth of retail outlets in Florida from 20 to 24, despite the 12.9% decrease in doctors writing prescriptions, the Sunshine State has a lot of pent-up demand. It's not because in that period of time the need for medical cannabis by patients increased that much. It's that the increased access through brick and mortar retail has helped people to access cannabis. And so Trulieve has a market leader position. One could argue a monopoly. One could talk about the way in which they got their licenses. One could
Oh,
talk
you're talking about on the kitchen
husband,
table?
blah,
How
blah,
was
blah.
all started on a kitchen table?
right. Yeah.
But nonetheless, at the end of the day, there are more retail locations. There are more people accessing legal cannabis, and it is showing the pent-up demand in that state for easily accessible product that doesn't require an alleyway transaction. So
That's
yeah,
fair.
we can hate on them because it's easy to hate on them. And what I really appreciate is that it shows the demand here. The other thing I appreciate is DeSantis's continued track record of being on the wrong side of issues that are not issues. It's like he's like Don Quixote de la whatever that story was, jousting at windmills. If it's not Disney, it's medical cannabis. My hope for him is that he finds out what's important to him and he fights for that instead of just fighting to stay in the headlines.
I think that's fair. I
It's
mean,
just a
I
bunch
think
of
that's
culture war
fair.
bullshit.
You guys are.
I don't like DeSantis. I will say, as a Republican, I don't even like DeSantis. Sorry, Jason.
I mean, you don't have to like him.
I don't.
I mean, I think he's a fantastic governor, but
What does he stand for?
what does he
Meatballs?
stand for?
What's his North Star?
He doesn't stand for anything. He stands on things.
That's fair. That's fair. That's why he has big boots.
He stands on everything but business. Yeah.
I mean, I think that they're just. I think that with this story, they're just trying to gaslight the Florida constituency into believing that this legalization bill is going to pass on its first run, and because they need to get a lot of momentum to get up to 60% of the vote in order for this to pass. And I'm not sure that they're going to do it because there is no home grow provision in there, and there's a lot of activists within the state of Florida that do not want it to pass, which I think makes a very interesting political alliance between the hemp bros and the activists, because the hemp bros did the deal with DeSantis, so then that way they could still sell all of their products.
Well, I think that that's part of the beautiful thing about cannabis is it's a medicine that you can grow yourself. Like you can take true control and actually advocate for yourself to the point of producing a clean, safe product to help you. So I think that taking home grow out of anything is just ridiculous. No, I will always
does lack
advocate
of
for
home grow has lack of home grow stopped any legalization efforts anywhere else? No.
No, it hasn't, but it should.
not.
It absolutely should.
Just because it hasn't,
I do not think this
doesn't mean
it'll
it
be
won't.
stopped at all.
Whoa, big screen.
Just 'cause it hasn't.
It definitely won't.
I
I definitely don't think it won't. And
Just because they don't say that that's the reason doesn't mean it's not.
I know, Jason. You always say, "Don't let bad be the enemy of the good."
Don't let the bad be the enemy of the good.
Don't let perfect.
When the fuck
It's
has
don't
Jason
let
said
perfect be the enemy of the good. And the good here is legalizing so people can have more access to these stores. That the demand is there. Period. The numbers do not lie.
Well, Florida's always been like a great market.
The more people are going out there, they need more product, and this is going to be more tax revenue for the state. It's going to be more investor dollars raining down, and those trickle-down economics that you guys love to bring up. This is a huge proponent.
I love some good old trickle-down economics.
So there's no reason for Ron DeSantis to ever be against legalizing in the great state of Florida when everybody wants it except for him, and he's paying off these hemp executives to pretend like they are against it as well. It makes no sense.
And I think moderate Republicans are done a disservice by people like DeSantis who are cutting against the grain of popular opinion. And so
I don't
what
think
I would
he is.
expect from any what I would expect from any capable politician that doesn't have a North Star is to at least read the tea leaves or be a weather vane and to align themselves with what they think is popular opinion. And I don't think in Florida the majority of people are against legal cannabis.
No.
Interesting.
So then who is he pandering to? And if it's not the base and if it's not the majority of his constituents, who is Meatball Ron pandering?
Well, the whole thing though,
his own petty little bullshit.
The whole thing though,
that's it.
The whole thing, though, Yarrow, you mentioned the majority, but the problem is that with this Florida initiative, you need more than a majority. You need a 60% threshold in order to pass. Exactly. Right. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to get to like maybe 54 or 55%, but I don't think they're going to get over 60.
Weren't the polls saying 80% was approved?
But we know all those polls are fake.
Truly wins no matter what, right? Truly wins no matter what. Because if it doesn't pass, they're still expanding their footprint in this market with a limited license state and can afford to take another run at this in the future. They still get the credit even without the home grow, which I think it's immoral, but that's just me. They still get the credit of advancing access to cannabis. And even if it doesn't pass by the 61%, if it gets more than 50%, that means that Meatball Ron is not representing the position of the majority of the constituents in Florida.
Shock.
Yeah.
Time will tell, and we will see.
The people will get what they want one way or another. And I think it's time that people see the things for what they are, and Ron DeSantis got to get the fuck out of there, man. He's not doing anything for the state. He's not doing anything for the people.
Guess what, Rico?
And
he can't run again as a governor.
Losing people money.
He can't run again as a governor. He can't run again as a governor.
Can he run for king?
I know.
So he can run for.
I know, but they have him until 2027 though. So. Yep.
That's
they're
right.
Stuck with this. They're stuck with this loser-ass governor. He's losing ass governor.
He's going to make sure that the Florida elections are safe.
Oh, I can't wait to see what he does as a lame duck. This is going to be fucked up.
We are going to go to a commercial, and we're going to be right back.
I'm going to fight privately. All right.
Oh, man, that was weird. Hey, you, America. Do I look like Sean Connery? Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
He's gassing you up.
High at 9 News' notoriously conservative leader is also known as the industry's very own Kaiser Brose for smoking the best weed in every room, smoking the best weed in the world, and being the highest Republican in every room that he walks into and walks out of. And I'm sure he's riding high this morning as his favorite former prosecutor is now going to be going head-to-head against the orange convicted demon himself. Come to the stage, none other than Jason Beck.
Oh, man, you guys, I'll tell you what, I am just so excited to be voting for Kamala Harris in this presidential election coming up, you guys. I'm so excited, and you should be too.
God, she's awful. She's looking old, too.
I know.
She's looking real weathered.
I think since she's going to be the Democratic nominee, most likely, I think we need to get a cackle sound on the soundboard, Sean.
Or just one of those things where she sounds like she's casting
why don't you attack her on her merits and not her looks? How about that?
That has nothing to do with her looks. That has nothing to do with her looks. That's her sound, Rico. Big difference.
I'm just saying she's getting
But let me tell you something about what's really going on, you guys.
But Rico has a point. Which is she has left you ample ammunition to take shots at her that are deeper and more substantive.
I agree.
Than just her look.
I'm going to go into that. I'm going to go into all of that. I'm going to go into that later in the show, Yarrow. Okay, I'm going to go into all of that.
We deserve to insult people at the highest level.
I agree with you 100%. I'm totally all about that. But let me tell you who we're going to insult first, okay? That's right, because what happened at the Cannabis Control Commission, you guys? That's right. They say where there's smoke, there's fire. And lately, it seems that the smoke is blowing from the Cannabis Control Commission. That's right. From high staff turnover rates, slow rollout regulations, and lengthy wait times for licenses, ongoing governance issues, and an alleged hostile work environment, Massachusetts officials are saying enough is enough. In a quote, the Cannabis Control Commission has faced what sometimes feels like an endless stream of scandals, said Senator Michael Moore, Democrat from Millbury. In a statement requesting an oversight hearing, which happened last week, the public deserves to have some accountability on why these issues have proven so hard to stamp out, he says. With the CCC requesting a 23% funding increase during fiscal 2024 budget negotiations, Moore says it is critical the agency has plans to right the ship, since millions of our tax dollars are at stake. Moore filed legislation to create an internal special audit unit within the commission. If passed, the legislation would delegate oversight responsibilities to an audit unit within, but not subject to, the commission's control. Moore has since filed amendments to create a receiver for the commission under the Economic Development Bill, but the Senate rejected the amendment. The only hope for a receiver would be through his initial legislation in February, which is stuck in committee. Last week, Inspector General Jeffrey Shapiro asked the state legislature again to appoint a receiver for the commission before the end of the term on July 31st. Shapiro hopes the receiver will turn around the leaderless commission as the legislature works to reorganize the 7-year-old agency. Man, it's just a baby. In a quote, the Cannabis Control Commission is a rudderless agency without a clear indication of who is responsible for running its day-to-day operations, Shapiro said in the statement. However, Acting Chair Ava Chandler Concepcion disagrees with these sentiments, saying her staff are hard at work growing and maintaining a safe, effective, and equitable marijuana and adult use marketplace. The cannabis industry has generated more than $7 billion in sales for the state, she pointed out, and Concepcion also says that a receiver would come in cold and stymie productivity, just as our hiring process for a permanent executive director is underway. So how did the Cannabis Control Commission get to this point? Well, back in November of 2016, slightly more than half of Massachusetts residents voted to pass ballot question number 4, which legalized the possession, use, and production and sale of adult use cannabis. The following year, Massachusetts created a new agency, the Cannabis Control Commission, to support the implementation of adult use. The regulatory body comprises 5 commissioners appointed by the governor, the attorney general, and the treasurer. There has been a high turnover rate among leadership positions at the commission in recent years, and in May of 2022, Steve Hoffman, the agency's then chair, resigned months before his 5-year term expired. He was the only remaining commissioner of the 5 people initially appointed to the oversight body in 2017, and he did not give a reason for his departure. Only a year into office, Chair Shannon O'Brien, a former state treasurer and the 2022 Democratic candidate for governor versus Mitt Romney, was suspended from her position in September of 2023 after an investigator's report concluded that O'Brien made racially, ethnically, and culturally insensitive statements, including public statements that could reasonably be perceived as creating the impression that diverse candidates were not qualified for the CCC role.
That's fucked up.
After much discussion and debate, the commission appointed Concepcion as the acting chair and has continued to vote her in as acting chair at subsequent meetings. The inspector general says that the turnover leads to confusion regarding who's in charge and who manages whom, and frustration over the ongoing public drama. The commission has more than 20 vacancies, and many are critical leadership positions, including executive director, general counsel, chief of investigations and enforcement, deputy general counsel and enforcement chancellor, and an HR manager. They have no HR manager. That's great. Questions over the mediation efforts are swirling because towards the end of Hoffman's reign, he began to work to get a mediator to get buy-in from the commissioners, executive director, and staff of governance. The inspector general notes that these efforts have lasted longer than the employment of several commissioners and professional staff, including those seeking seeking mediation. Between June of 2000 and December of 2023, the commission held 16 executive sessions to discuss mediation and its governance charter and paid at least $16,000 for the work. In response to the Inspector General's, Concepcion said in a letter that a blueprint for a governance structure is the final stage of a legal review and will be discussed at a public meeting. The challenges at the commission are far from secret, the letter said. We are committed to resolving them, in an additional quote. But other issues have rallied the commissioners as well. Exactly, because in January of 2022, the death of Holyoke cannabis worker stirred up the commission, especially since it took months for the commissions to learn about it. The executive director at the time decided not to share the news, raising questions about who was in charge. And in March 2023, a data breach occurred in which the commission sent a cannabis blogger a spreadsheet containing 17,000 rows of cannabis employees' data and other confidential information. In September 2023, a state audit found that over $10,000 of produce contained materials past the expiration date for testing, which could result in a potential public health risk and loss of consumer confidence. In December of last year, the commission voted to eliminate the two-driver rule, which requires marijuana deliveries to be handled by two drivers because it adds significant cost to the service. However, by the May 9th meeting, the commission indicated that removing the rule was several months away, adding confusion and lingering costs to marijuana businesses. In addition, there have been company complaints about the length of time the Cannabis Control Commission takes to process registration applicants, as well as conduct investigations and complete enforcement actions. On one of the intentions of the initial ballot question was to open social cafes, but the commission has yet to formalize a license for a social consumption business. In a quote, "For the last 8 years, we could have had a whole new industry," said Moore. However, Concepcion notes that the commission has accomplished a lot over its short tenure. After 6 years in existence, she notes the industry is producing $1 billion in sales annually from adult use marijuana establishments. Yeah, like that's not your job. You're touting something that the industry did, not something that you did, but nonetheless. The industry also provided $322 million in tax and non-tax revenue in fiscal year 2023 alone. And in June, the commission approved a measure allowing the legal transportation of cannabis to Dukes, Nantucket counties to counter an illicit market surge during the tourist season. Is that what they're calling it? Interesting. Enforcement actions include one of the largest fines ever issued to Trulieve in Holyoke for $350,000 for unsanitary conditions and workplace safety issues. And I find it interesting they didn't mention that one of the employees died, but it doesn't mention that. But nonetheless, it did. Yeah, it doesn't. In a quote, "With a new executive director on the horizon, the commission is on the precipice of writing a new chapter," Concepcion said in a statement, "and one that builds on our work expanding and maintaining a safe, well-regulated, and equitable cannabis industry." Well, I know you guys, after all that, want to know what's next for Massachusetts, and the Inspector General calls for action by the soon approaching end of the legislative calendar year on July 31st. And a quote says, "I do not make this recommendation lightly, but I do make it urgently," Shapiro said in a statement. Waiting until the next legislative session to begin is fraught with risk and uncertainty that will impact our emerging industry that is already struggling to gain a solid footing. Even though Moore's amendment to create a receiver for the commission through the economic development bill failed, there's still hope that initial legislation could come out of committee and pass. He said that if nothing is done, it will start to affect the viability of these operations and the potential for new companies to enter the social equity program, which helps establish cannabis businesses in communities that have been disproportionately harmed by marijuana prohibition and enforcement. Because cannabis sales are still federally illegal and subject to strict restrictions, lenders are not financing any of these stores. And in a quote, "So there's personal money at stake here," said Senator Moore said. And Moore said, for someone investing their life savings to start a business and fall in this mess, there is a potential for seeing your life savings disappear before your eyes. Wow. Well, I think that Massachusetts getting a receiver is just par for the course of how this whole cannabis industry has been rolled out. And I may even go as far as saying that Massachusetts with this may be an even bigger mess than New York. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. This is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do y'all got to say about this?
I mean, Massachusetts is a dumpster fire, is what they are. They're not a mess. They're a dumpster fire.
They're
it's
a
on
dumpster
fire.
fire.
I mean, I think the fact that a government entity is getting a receiver is insanity to me. I'm still trying to just wrap my head fully around that.
I'm so with you on this. So with you on this.
Like, you guys fucked up that bad. They're like, you can't run the government anymore.
Yeah, you can't. Like, the government's going to put a government-appointed receiver in to control the government. I think this is so perfect for the state of Massachusetts.
It was so fucked up. Rico left.
I mean, it's 9:30. Fair enough. What do you have to say about this, Yarrow?
Well, a couple things. I think conception means like the birthing of something.
No. That's her last name. That's her last name.
Right. When this lady was quoted, she was birthing bullshit because she was talking about the work that they had done instead of acknowledging the challenges. And I think the most important thing in life is we can't save our face and our ass at the same time.
100%.
And her quote leads me to believe that she's trying to save face instead of ass. And I think what's really important for fledgling organizations or departments that are facing challenges, the most important thing is to acknowledge those publicly and to speak to that versus the spin. And so when she's talking about the work that they've done, you don't get to a place of almost being under receivership if you have a winning hand and you're executing properly. And so for her to not really acknowledge that at the beginning of her quote feels tone deaf to me. The other thing that's challenging for me is that they talked about having almost $1 billion in sales. They don't get to take credit for that, as you pointed out, Jason. But what hurts me deeply is the $323 million in taxes. $323 million in taxes on $1 billion in sales is still a structure that doesn't work for the industry. And so if these people want to earn their keep, aside from getting out of their own way, aside from being much more aggressive in their deliverables, the best thing that they can do for this industry, aside from the consumption lounge component and allowing the delivery, which they're doing, is to create tax reform, meaningful tax reform, to get off the neck of the industry and to allow the industry to thoroughly flourish and thrive. And it's only with that I think the illicit market becomes less attractive to consumers. And so I don't have any faith in these people, and I don't understand why, if they're on the precipice of receivership, they're not already in receivership. Like, what are the things that they have to continue to mess up in order to finally get into receivership? Like, with kids, you kind of like, you put them in a timeout, right? In hockey, you put people in the penalty box. And from what I can tell, these people deserve the penalty box and a timeout, and neither of those has occurred yet. And
they deserve a spanking,
the
Yarrow.
question is, a spanking or even waterboarding at a black site. At a what?
Oh, whoa.
Maybe at a black site, which is what the CIA called its undisclosed locations where we allegedly incentivize people with questionable techniques. But the thing that's challenging for me is I feel like these people are competing to be the New York of High at 9 News.
That's what I'm saying.
They're just going to give me so much material.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to hold fire. I'm not going to be diplomatic. I'm going to point out every single time how bad they are. And then the question is, how much are they getting paid to do such a poor job?
Well, speaking of which, that brings me to my other thing about if they get a receiver. I wonder how much of this tax revenue, because, the receivers, they have no accountability pretty much whatsoever. They just get to run in there and just do whatever they do.
No,
and
that's not true. They have to give detailed billing.
They just put whatever on a paper and whatever, and it gets filed or whatever. They have zero accountability at all whatsoever. Okay, there's no one that's going to say, "Oh, you ran our business into the ground while it was in receivership." No. That is not how it works.
The receiver for the High Times got fired, Jason. So if we talk about recent receiver processes, the receiver for High Times got let go. So I think there's enough accountability that those people aren't granted an indefinite opportunity to be the
Right.
receiver. But I also think it's important to remember receiverships happen when you're triaging a situation. They are making the best of a worse situation. They're trying to keep the patient alive. And if in that process they're crude, or they're not understanding all of the nuance, or they're not capitalizing on all the strategic opportunities, that really isn't their job. Their job is just to stop the bleeding and to be able to get it past whatever got it into receivership.
Correct. And they actually are accountable to the court, and they do have to report on a monthly basis. There are continual hearings where they have to give reporting of both financial and procedural things that have happened. They have to give accounting of their billing. They're not just in there playing Candyland and having a great day. Like there's checks and balances to make sure the receiver is controlling the property. I know, I get it.
This is total.
Jason and I have both dealt with receiverships,
Yes.
and they're fucking miserable. They are miserable.
They are. That's why I think the government should totally get a receiver.
But I also do receiverships, right? So like I will say that, you know, as
Hey,
as
Massachusetts,
miserable as it
she's
is.
available to be your receiver.
Actually, that'd be fucking
That
dope.
would be great.
I sure am.
That would be great,
somebody who
Massachusetts.
actually
Yeah,
knows what
reach
they're
out to
doing
us
to it.
over here at High at 9.
Hit us up.
Yeah, maybe
For
we
sure.
can. We can definitely help you.
And
out.
I think I would love to actually see a lot more of these entities
I'd like
going
to see New
receivership.
York's municipality go into a receivership too. That
I
would be
would
fantastic.
like to see a lot of them go into receiverships. I think that there's a lot of misappropriation of funds, and a lot of people that are these bureaucrats that are tasked with running these industries that they don't understand are just playing with a nice title and a lot of money, and it's our money, and I would like to see it used appropriately.
Fair enough.
Well, here's where I want to disagree with you. I don't think there's as much misappropriation of
Oh, there
funds
is. There
because
is.
that's an easy thing to catch,
I'm a
right?
treasurer.
And I think that creates a trail that is pretty damning. What I think there is a misappropriation of opportunity. And the longer these people take to allow the industry to have clear guidelines and for people to get their business running, they're misappropriating the cost to entrepreneurs that have to stand up their businesses, that have to pay for intellectual property, that have to pay for a lease on a building until they're able to open. And so what they're grossly misappropriating is the opportunity to create an industry that can create winners and profitable businesses. And that alone should be damning enough that these people could be held to a much greater level of accountability. And God forbid we suggest a performance, a pay scale based on performance. I would love it if these people worked on commission.
I mean, well, we don't want them to work on commission because they'll claim all the tax revenue is the money that they collected, just like they did in this article.
How about paid per number of doors they allow open for dispensaries in New York? If the entire Office of Cannabis in New York only got paid based on the number of brick and mortar dispensaries that they approved, they'd have been eating ramen for the last couple
you'd have a whole bunch of homeless legislators.
That's right.
Fair enough.
I mean, I misappropriation of funds maybe was not the right word. I think that there's a tremendous amount of money that's going to these.
They definitely misappropriate funds.
For sure. But I think that there's a tremendous amount of money that's going to these overinflated salaries for these people who don't even know how to do their job, much less do it. Like, we're looking at Massachusetts, who has taken 2 years to write their own goddamn job description. What are you doing? What are you doing? Because you can't tell us. We can't see it. You've ruined this industry. You've fucked over everyone that you're supposed to be supporting. You're supposed to be regulating. Like, you still can't tell us what your job description is 2 years later.
Maybe that's because they don't actually have a job description, because they don't do anything based off of what's going on in Massachusetts. But nonetheless, we're going to roll.
I mean, my high school student child with ChatGPT could do a better job of standing up job descriptions, or they could just call other markets, other states, and say, could we cut and paste your job description? They're not reinventing the wheel. What they're doing is not novel, cutting edge, or revolutionary in any way. And to your point, Jenny, I think that simple metric of have they been able to create job descriptions in an org chart, if they can't do that, they really, honestly, they need to clean house, and not just with an executive director or a head rolling and somebody else coming in. If the whole organization can't do that, they probably don't deserve to be there.
Fair enough. And on that, we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into the Sebastopol sage himself, Mr. Yarrow Kubrin. He's the man who often stands on top of telephone books when he's standing in line to ride rides. That's right. It is the Sebastopol sage himself, Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
Good morning. Good morning. Give me that canned applause. Woo,
There we go.
woo.
You got it, bro.
There you go. It feels good.
And just so you know, Yarrow, you gotta thank Sean today, because Sean is over here filling in today, and we definitely appreciate all of his work helping us out today. Get this going.
Sean,
Yes,
thank
Sean.
you very much. Yeah, a little more applause for Sean is definitely appropriate. So good morning, High at 9 News viewers. My article today brings us back to the sunny state of California. A failed celebrity partnership in cannabis, probably not the first, probably not the last. But the reason I chose to cover it is because I know these two entrepreneurs and founders who sued Melissa Etheridge. So I think she's going to have a new song. It's going to be If It Makes You Not So Happy. And so this is actually not from a cannabis periodical or website. It's actually from Billboard magazine. So without further ado, Melissa Etheridge's failed cannabis startup left business partners in ruins, complaint says. Etheridge's business partners say they've been left with nothing after the singer and her wife allegedly bailed on their California weed business. Melissa Etheridge is facing a legal battle over her brief foray into the cannabis business, filed by two business partners in Northern California who claim that the singer abandoned them and left them in financial ruin. The Grammy-winning songwriter who rose to stardom in the 1990s with hits like Come to My Window and I'm the Only One announced in 2019 that she would launch Etheridge Farms, which aimed to bring the benefits of cannabis to middle-aged women. Didn't Whoopi do that too? But anyway, they're looking to cannabis, and I want Etheridge Farms to be right there to answer what they're looking for, the singer said at the time. But 5 years later, her former business partners now claim that Etheridge and her wife effectively torpedoed the company by refusing to support it. In a legal petition filed July 9th and obtained by Billboard, Josephine and D'Angelo Roberto said they've been left with nothing. The Robertos trusted the Etheridges and invested their life's work into the business, writes attorney Christopher Frost of the law firm Frost LLP, representing the Robertos. Unfortunately, their hard work did not end in a success story, but rather betrayal and abandonment. The filing is a demand for arbitration, which initiates a litigation-like case that will play out similar to a lawsuit. But such cases, often required under corporate operating agreements, are decided by an arbiter behind closed doors rather than by a judge in an open courtroom. Representatives for the Etheridges, including their attorney who received the arbitration demand, did not return repeated requests for comments on the dispute. Attorneys for the Robertos also declined to comment. A budding partnership. The Robertos, nicknamed Josie and Cricket, say they met Etheridge and her wife Linda Wallem Etheridge via mutual friends in Northern California in 2017, and that the foursome then hatched a plan to launch a series of cannabis businesses, including Etheridge Farms and Etheridge Botanicals. In a 2019 article in San Jose's Mercury News, the singer said she had been inspired in part by using cannabis amid a battle with breast cancer in the 2000s. I came out of a chemotherapy saying, I want to be an advocate for this. I believe in this as medicine so deeply, she told the Mercury News. I started looking around California going, okay, what do I need to do? I want to be a part of this. I actually turned to my friends and said, I want to be the face of cannabis. In the same article, Josie was quoted as saying that the Etheridges generally share the same values that Cricket and I share about health and well-being. According to the legal filings, the group secured a rental lease in 2018 on a large facility in Soquel, California, to manufacture and distribute their products, and also locked out important regulatory licenses for that property. Pay attention, there's a little real estate theme coming up here. The plan, according to the Robertos, was for the couple to contribute their extensive cannabis industry expertise and work on product development, while the Etheridges would use their celebrity status to promote the business. Sounds like a winning recipe to me. Seek outside investors and continue to support the business financially. Left high and dry. But while the Robertos say they devoted every ounce of their money, time, and attention to the business, they claim the Etheridges failed to do the same. Okay, newsflash. Celebrity endorsements and celebrity lines, don't expect a celebrity to devote every ounce of their money, time, and attention to the business, because that's not what that is. But anyway, they said that she failed to promote the business and then stopped supporting the business financially. According to legal filings, by 2020, that allegedly included failing to pay the rent at the Soquel facility as promised. When the landlord finally booted them, the Robertos say it cost the business crucial regulatory licenses that have been tied to the property. Regulatory licenses that have been tied to the property. Entrepreneurs, pay attention to that. Despite their persistent efforts following the Etheridge's complete lack of engagement and financial support to the Etheridge entities, the LLC sales and performance eventually withered away, attorneys for the couple write in the demand for arbitration. The alleged breakdown of the business came amid great personal tragedy for Etheridge. In May of 2020, the singer announced that her son, with former partner Julie Cypher, had died from causes related to opioid addiction. Months later, the singer launched the Etheridge Foundation to advocate for and support research for new treatment for opioid addiction. Those tragic events are not directly mentioned in new legal filings, but the attorneys for the Robertos allude to them in making their case. Quote, the Etheridges suffered personal losses for which the Robertos have much empathy, unquote, the couple's lawyer writes in their filing earlier this month. However, notwithstanding those personal losses and given the challenges faced by the parties, the Etheridges ultimately decided to let all of the joint venture die on the vine, stopped covering expenses that they promised to pay, and left the Robertos in a much worse situation. In technical terms, a demand for arbitration accuses the Etheridges of breaching their fiduciary duty to the companies, breaching their contract with the Robertos, violating legal promises they made to the couple, and making fraudulent and negligent misrepresentations. That one's going to sting. The pair are seeking an undetermined amount of damages, but say they're entitled to at least $3 million. The Robertos have not pursued this action and are not proceeding to arbitration for fame or fortune or as a vendetta, their lawyer writes. Rather, they simply seek compensation for the suffering they had to endure and the financial ruin they had experienced due to the Etheridges abandoning them. Okay. So a couple things. First of all, we've seen some celebrity brands do well, but on average, we've seen celebrity brands not do so well. Do I think entrepreneurs can expect an equal amount of support from their celebrity partners? Not at all. Was I a little bit envious when this couple secured this deal with the Etheridges? I was, because I was like, damn, you have tattoos and you were able to go out and get this deal done. I was really impressed at that time. Even decided I might get a couple teardrops done on my side, but I didn't get to it, and I didn't get the celebrity endorsement deal. But I was really impressed by these two entrepreneurs who went to the conferences, put themselves out there, and were able to secure this opportunity. And good luck trying to prove damages in an industry where there's more losers than winners. And if you're a celebrity and you do an endorsement deal, don't forget you have deep pockets and you are does 1 through a million when it comes time to sue somebody, especially if you violated your contract. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News, Monday, July 22nd.
Yar, did they try to come to her window and ask for the rent money? Because that might have worked out better.
Man.
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. I mean, did anyone really think that the Melissa Etheridge cannabis brand was going to do well in the first place?
Tell me why the fuck I never even heard about it.
Yeah, I'd never even heard of it either.
I'm in this state. I am actively working in this fucking state, and I never heard of it.
Well, I mean, I did, and I met the couple that was doing all the work behind this brand.
Were they good tattoos?
They had really a lot of tattoos. Yes, a lot of tattoos.
All right.
And so,
I mean, look, I think separate from facing the music and the face tattoos, there was this groupthink from 2016 to maybe 2020 that the soccer mom was the most coveted new cannabis client that regulated cannabis was going to be able to provide.
That's
it's
true.
the reason why Dose-It was able to survive for so long.
Gross.
It was the reason why people decided that they were going to focus on what they considered to be this sort of demographic, and they would tailor brands, they would tailor. Yeah, well, thank you. I don't know enough about shoes to be able to.
That's what it's called, the stiletto stoners.
They're painful.
The stiletto stoner.
If I'm high, I don't feel my feet as much. I agree, though, but Yarrow, they definitely spend a lot of money. And even when you're, if you need something from the store, who's probably going? You or your wife. So, like, even if they're purchasing for the men of the household, it's typically the women doing the shopping. So it is fair to market to that demographic. I don't know that Melissa Etheridge and her wife or whomever is the best way to do that, but I do think that there is an argument to be made, and that was not an ignorant thought, that women, soccer moms, are doing a lot of this purchasing.
And you know, Jason just recently interviewed Whoopi, who, you know, aside from getting her Jewish talking points from Kanye, is actually a pretty talented artist. And so I think that she also was aiming at that same demographic around that same time. And so there are a lot of...
No. Whoa. Hold on a second.
Hold on a second. Whether it was Chelsea Handler, whether it was Whoopi Goldberg, or it was Melissa Etheridge, you can literally... There's just no end to the number of celebrity brands that went after, what'd you call them, the stiletto stoners?
Well, hold on. So you got to understand this first. So Whoopi and Maya, which was Whoopi's first brand, came out and specialized in creating products that helped women with menstrual cramps. That was the main focus of that brand, was helping women that had severe menstrual pain. And so
I love it.
I don't think that was, but however, the Etheridge brand was all based around flour and everything else like that, and so they didn't have some core product that was unique to the market at all whatsoever. They just had the same thing that everybody else is doing, and not saying that that's a bad thing, but why do I care to buy Melissa Etheridge weed? I don't.
But you're not a soccer mom,
I would
Jason Beck.
I would also say that soccer moms might use things 30 days out of the month, and if you're so niched into a treatment for menstrual symptoms, that's not something everybody's going to use every day or every week or every weekend.
Well, that's why we saw that brand grow and die.
Well, the purpose of it is that there weren't many products that were female focused products, especially at that time when they came out and launched. And
it was a good idea, and it was the right time for those ideas.
Yeah, and I know Whoopi addressed this, and she was she was saying, one of the reasons that they did it is because there were a lot of people that were saying no, it's not a big enough demographic, and she's like, what are you talking about? It's half the population is women. So
well, that's great and all, but it's obviously not a big enough demographic because we saw that brand die out. And I love Maya, much love to Maya. I appreciate you, sis, and she does a lot of great work. But we saw that brand grow to where it could get to, and then it fizzled.
Well, and now it's back.
It's not fair to say it's half the demographic, because it's only the demographic of women who suffer from menstrual symptoms such that they're seeking something outside of themselves, right? So anybody past menopause, that's not a product for them. True. People who don't have severe menstrual symptoms, that's not a product for them. So it would be unfair to just say, well, 50% of the population is women, so 50% of the population is our customers. That's a bit of a spin.
And technically, isn't that another celebrity brand that's actually owned by a man?
What?
Isn't it?
No.
All right. See that cap table. I'm gonna need to see that cap table.
There may be some men on the cap table. I'm
gonna need to see that cap table.
But nonetheless, this was good. We need to go to a commercial. We are way over time today, you guys.
But I got time today.
That's great. We're gonna go to our commercial, and we're gonna be right back.
I was late, but I'm here.
Jason's going to commercial. He's gonna hit me if I come back with a black eye. You guys call somebody. Call the people.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Oh, look at the cheese. You know you didn't eat that cheese.
I did.
You did eat the cheese?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
watch. I did this on the first shot.
Oh, you want to go play today?
First shot, bro.
I'll kick your ass.
You can't beat me.
Did you cut the cheese as well?
She can't beat me.
I beat him all the time.
Never in her million.
I would believe that.
Oh, man, look at his Jenga.
I mean, you would believe anything then.
No, I think I'd like to see her take you on in basketball too, like one-on-one,
back.
like back you down.
man.
Stop
Basketball.
whatever you're doing. Make sure that you hit that like button, as well as subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We're only 4 subscribers away from hitting 4K, so why don't you make our day and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Also, all of the articles that we cover on today's show you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. And one quick thing, since we were on the topic of Whoopi Goldberg, I did have the pleasure of introducing Whoopi on Saturday when she was given the key to the city in West Hollywood. And if you want to see my whole speech and everything else all around that, you can go and over on our YouTube channel, you can see there's a video of that whole celebration.
Shout out to Millie for being on the scene.
Yes.
Yeah, we had to get our own footage.
Sean, then we go into our next commercial.
Pretty cool.
Shout out to Sean over here running.
Yeah.
the
I
ship
actually
today.
watched the footage of her when you tried to ask her a question, and she kind of snapped back with the "let's wait until everybody gets in."
She was lightly
and while
rude
she
as
wasn't
fuck
wrong
to
around
you.
efficiency, she also wasn't pleasant or polite in her response to you.
Yeah, no, she was
No,
surprised.
No.
I'm just.
I don't like it when
I'm
people
just
are mean to
saying.
you either, Jason. That's not fair. Especially when you're there to honor them.
There's no please or thank you. She just looked at you like, "Why are you making me do my work twice?" Instead of saying, "I prefer to."
It was weird. It was weird because in the beginning, like they didn't have the press in there, and then everyone was like, "Hey, do any of you guys have questions?" And Whoopi's just sitting there like, "So you guys don't have any fucking questions?" And so I fucking went out of
You
my
had
way
some
to ask a
questions.
question.
She didn't want to answer any questions. She
And-
said,
and
let's
her
wait till everyone's in
response-
Do we
here
have
so
the
I don't
second
have to
commercial, Sean?
repeat."
Yeah. Just run into it, bro.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
When they're coming out with Sister Act 4, The Revenge.
Oh man.
Oh, boy.
And I think we're back.
Uh-oh.
Are we back? We back, Sean? Yes.
Yo, I
We're
gotta tell
back.
Chris that the
slow down,
thing
slow
doesn't
down,
come
slow
out.
down, because you're up next.
Oh, God.
That's right. That's right. The mouth of the South, Jenny Beth herself, the one with a slick tongue. And, of course, she is the founder of Justice Served, a 501c3, where you can help with your criminal justice reform, as well as Kind Cannabis Consulting.
Oh, he got it right today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That's right. It's none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Hi, guys. All right, you got my story?
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I guess I got your story.
I didn't memorize it.
Here
We'll
we
work
go.
on it.
Here we go.
Boy, I'm so glad Rico's not here because this would have turned real nasty. But the GOP senator condemns lack of transparency in marijuana rescheduling process. Can you imagine that, Jason? That's crazy, right? A GOP senator is condemning the Biden administration over what he describes as repeated refusals from federal agencies to brief Congress on its plans and justification for rescheduling marijuana, which he argues fuels speculation that the proposed policy change is politically motivated. Because it is. In a letter sent to Attorney General Merrick Garland and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra. Javier. They spelled it wrong. Javier Becerra on Thursday. Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican from Louisiana, says he's very concerned about the supposed lack of transparency and how the agencies arrived at their decision to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act. Cassidy, a ranking member of the Senate, can you move this? Thank you. Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, said HHS outright refused to provide a briefing as members of the panel first requested in March, citing only an unspecified internal policy to explain the denial. The agency also hasn't turned over certain documents that were referenced in its rescheduling recommendation, the senator said. The Justice Department, meanwhile, has been non-responsive to 3 requests for a briefing of this matter. That sounds inappropriate. Okay. Your agency's, what is this? Your agency's avoidance to help committees attempt to carry out its oversight responsibilities over a matter of critical importance to help public and safety is troubling, the senator said. Refusing to engage with Congress on the merits of this policy furthers the perception.
Perception.
Can you make it bigger? I can't read.
No,
Thank you. You want to read it?
No.
Oh, man.
Do you need me to read it for you?
I do.
Jesus fucking
I'm kidding.
Christ.
I just needed to be there. Go for it.
Cassidy added that while there may be legitimate sensitivities about disclosing information about open enforcement matters, there is no valid reason why agencies cannot brief congressional staff about a publicly available proposed rule.
Federal agencies regularly provided briefings to Congress about proposed rules to give substantive content to relevant committees, Cassidy said. This failure to engage with Congress continues the administration's pattern of ignoring congressional oversight and sends a message that the administration is advancing policies merely for political gain in an election year. Jason, they would never.
They would never. They do.
The administration's lack of transparency into the intricacy rescheduling decision is very concerning, the letter continues. Marijuana is the most commonly used federally illegal substance in the United States, with approximately 1/3 of Americans reporting daily use, the highest levels ever reported by the National Institute of Health. The senator also complained that the Drug Enforcement Administration has yet to commit to hold an administrative hearing on the marijuana rescheduling proposal, despite requests from a variety of interested parties, including 19 state attorney generals and 9 former DEA administrators. The public comment period for the proposed rule ends Monday. You guys get your comment in today. It's the last day. This speaks to the continued disregard by the administration to provide clarity around the decision, Cassidy said. Moreover, this proposed rule runs contrary to multiple previous DOJ analysis that concluded that marijuana was appropriately placed in Schedule 1, which is insanity. Moving marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 would have significant implications for public health and safety. This change from long-standing DOJ policy and the uncertainty around the long-term health risks associated with marijuana use further reinforces the need for congressional oversight over this proposal. The letter concludes by requesting a briefing on the rescheduling plan no later than August 1. If the agency refuses, Cassidy is asking that they provide a written justification with citations of any legal requirements that preclude them from doing so. While the senator is criticizing the rescheduling decision, one of the effects of moving marijuana to Schedule 3 would be removing research barriers that are imposed on Schedule 1 drugs, an issue he evidently cares about given his sponsorship of a bill in 2021 that sought to make it easier for scientists to study those more strictly controlled substances. Meanwhile, a group representing state-level cannabis regulators recently called on the Biden administration and DEA Administrator Ann Milgram to provide a clear explanation of how rescheduling marijuana would affect federal enforcement priorities and the government's interaction with jurisdictions that regulate cannabis products. At the Republican National Committee convention this week, multiple GOP lawmakers spoke with Marijuana Moment about their views on cannabis policy issues such as rescheduling could be impacted if former President Donald Trump wins this November election, which he will. Trump 2024. They generally deferred to the nominee, but there were mixed opinions about what they would like to see happen. Also, bipartisan congressional lawmakers are now seeking to remove a controversial section of the spending bill that would block the Justice Department from rescheduling marijuana. One of several cannabis and psychedelics-related amendments to appropriations legislation that have been filed in recent days. GOP senators have separately tried to block the administration from rescheduling cannabis as part of a standalone bill filed last September, but that proposal has not yet.
I don't know what you're doing.
I don't either. I need a teleprompter. Me and Trump dog both need teleprompters. At an intersection, wait, Jason, this is not even my story, bud.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
There you go.
Go down. Thank you. Has not yet received a hearing or a vote. You guys, it's a Monday, and I'm struggling. God bless me. We are now at the end of the story, but, I'm glad that Rico's not here because he would make fun of me, but I miss him.
Don't worry, I'll send him the clip.
Good, let's do that. Let's do that. Listen, I don't think that any of this matters because obviously it's not going to go through. It is definitely a political stunt. Jason, do you disagree?
100% political stunt.
100%.
All the way.
100%. But I also find it really, really interesting that they're saying that they can't tell them what's going on or cite their reasoning because they have policies that they also can't cite for the reason to not give a little clarity.
Yeah, they have policies that they can't reveal that probably don't exist. which are just basically more excuses of why they can't do their job. I feel like all these people should just go and work for the DCC in Massachusetts.
I love you guys too. Thanks so much for even when I've. That's great.
Yarrow, you have any thoughts on this, Yarrow?
Not really.
No. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough, Yarrow. Any thoughts on this, Brandon?
Like you said, just a stunt. I'm all with you, but having Yarrow not say a single word caught me a little off guard.
That's confusing as shit. And I will tell you guys what caught me off guard, because right in the middle of my story where it was cut and pasted was clearly an ad or a clickbait to another story that said CBD is the cure for the crack epidemic. So I'm sorry, that completely threw me the fuck off, because what?
CBD is the cure for the crack epidemic. You haven't heard that yet?
What the? It was very confusing in the middle of my very bipartisan story.
Very.
I mean, I feel bad for not having more comments. So I guess if I had to have a comment, what I would say is that if the legislative branch is complaining about a lack of transparency from the executive branch, 9 out of 10 times that's probably accurate. However, I think the context for this is that they're seeking transparency on the internal deliberations so that they can use that to pick apart the decision. And so to me, it's a pretty transparent attempt to cry foul over a process that's probably the way in which that agency has done business in the past. And so my question is always to sort of go, okay, well, has this particular senator complained about a lack of transparency from this agency in the past, or is it now topic specific? Because if they haven't been banging the drum around a lack of transparency before, it makes me question why they're doing it now.
I mean, I think that they just gave the Whoopi Goldberg response to Jason Beck. They're like, "We'll tell you when everybody gets here."
Cute.
Don't want to repeat myself.
We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll right on in to Mr. Brandon Jones. We're way over on time, you guys. We're way over on time. I mean, if you really want to, you guys are freaking crazy over here today. Coming up next, he's the Missouri's finest. Be Green Distribution. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Brandon Jones.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes,
this has been quite a fun show. You guys are cracking my shit up.
Oh, man.
But we're back on to more polls. And yes, what do you know? More things about cannabis and alcohol. So, marijuana moment. More Americans smoke cannabis every day than alcohol on a daily basis, poll shows. So a new poll finds that more Americans smoke marijuana on a daily basis than drink alcohol every day. And that alcohol drinkers are more likely to say they would benefit from limiting their use than cannabis consumers are. U.S. adults who drink alcohol are nearly 3 times as likely to say they'd be better off reducing their intake, the drug, compared to the marijuana consumers who said they'd benefit from using their preferred substance less often, the survey found. It also says that while lifetime and monthly alcohol drinking among adults was far more common than cannabis use, daily marijuana consumption was slightly more popular than daily drinking. Meanwhile, 60% of adults say that they think marijuana should be legal in the U.S., while 76% of the people said consuming alcohol should be legal. Among people who'd use either substance, feelings toward legality were about the same. 81% of people who'd never used alcohol said it should be permitted, and 79% of people who'd never tried marijuana said consumption should be allowed. The survey conducted by YouGov polled 1,116 U.S. adults from June 7th to 10th. Of those, 84% said they'd never used alcohol, while then fewer than half, 48%, said they'd never tried marijuana. I don't know, where are these getting the results that 84% of them have never tried alcohol? That's pretty crazy, in their entire life. And 48% cannabis. As for monthly use, more than 4 in 10 adults, 41%, said they drink at least on a monthly basis. Less than half that proportion, 17%, said they use marijuana at least monthly. In terms of daily use, however, marijuana was more common, with 8% of adults saying they use cannabis daily, and 5% of adults, meanwhile, said they drink on a daily basis. On the point, YouGov reported notes that find it supporting that a separate study published in May in the journal Addiction that similarly found that there are more adults who use marijuana daily than who drink alcohol every day. So basically, they just resaid the exact same thing. So as I've seen more and more in the circles and the things here around Kansas City, we're seeing a lot more people going towards mocktails and cannabis consumption on a daily basis. So I'm just, this is obviously something that is important in my life. I think cannabis is something that obviously is a medicine. And so just kind of hear what you guys think about now on a daily basis, cannabis consumption overpassing alcohol.
I think this story is fake. I think this is a fake poll, and I'm not buying it. I think it's totally.
Where do they find adults at 40% of them haven't drank when they pulled? Where are they finding these people?
Yeah, I don't.
At a bar.
Man, I don't buy this story for 1 second. This is like if I saw a poll that said Kamala Harris was going to win the presidency. That's how much I believe this one.
Obviously, a very small number of people, and then a very just weird breakdown.
You know, I know where they went.
Where'd they go?
I know exactly where they went.
Where'd they go?
They went to AA meetings.
They went to Barney's Beanery.
They went to AA meetings for this poll.
Oh, boy.
Because they love to smoke. They love to smoke. You ever been outside of an AA meeting?
No,
like a
I've
smoke
never
bar.
been outside one or inside one. So.
It's crazy. They love to smoke.
I mean, I think we need to take a look at the way in which this can skew data, because it says daily, and I don't know that daily is the right measurement for consumption of anything. I think daily users, like the number of people that drink daily, might be a very different than the number of people who drink on weekends or Thursday night when they're out at a restaurant. I also think that because cannabis isn't legal in all 50 states, there is still a large percentage of people who probably don't want to disclose their cannabis use. And so that, I think, always limits the value of the data from these types of exercises.
Well, yeah, like who's going to say that they daily consume alcohol? And I mean, that's basically saying you're an alcoholic, right?
No, yeah, people are not going to admit that. Like, if my mom asked me if I've been drinking, I'm like, nah, absolutely. Come on, I'm a good Christian girl. Like, no one's going to admit to their usage. And I think that that's going to make it very difficult to properly quantify these things. I mean, Yarrow, did they ask you? You love your Pinot? I do too, you know?
Yes, actually, I went to a new primary care physician a couple months ago because I'm now 51, and leveling up and adulting now is me figuring out all the places where I need to take better care of myself. And every time they ask me if I drink, I say, yeah, but not enough because I don't have enough time. And that's my shtick, and it's a joke, but it's also kind of true.
Hold on a second.
And my doctor looked at me, and without skipping a beat, he goes, if you drink more than 2 drinks a day, you have a problem. I said, no, I don't have time for that. He goes, but I have to tell you, if you drink more than 2 drinks a day, you have a problem. I said, yeah, but you didn't even laugh at my shtick, dog. I might pick another doctor if you don't laugh at my questionable dad joke humor. And so they've changed the line of where that used to be. 50, 75 years ago, 2-drink martini lunches was standard for a lot of business people.
Bring those back.
And so
where did happy hour go? I mean, happy hour was a thing.
It was the happiest hour of the fucking day.
But also, now that I'm trying to get a 6-pack like Jason, I'm also aware that even a light beer is a lot of extra time on the elliptical. So I do think, generally speaking, alcohol is falling out of favor.
But I will say, the Italian in me's got to speak up. A glass of red wine a day solves a lot of problems.
Yeah, but he said not more than 2. The doctor said no more than 2. Any of that, you're just lushy.
Yeah. Well, so we've proven that people lie about their alcohol consumption.
Yarrow, I thought that the reason that you don't drink that much is because your wife keeps the liquor in the top cabinet, and a lot of the times you can't reach the bottles in the back.
He stands on the counter and you leave him alone.
So, well, then, like a lot of people, for me, like I use as medicine as a replacement for opioids. Literally had surgery last week, and I was like, no, don't give me any pills. I won't take them. I'm going to take this, and I use that as a daily pain regimen versus like I would not do that with alcohol. This is a medication for me that actually helps take the place of other medications.
I'm glad you got the glass out of your face too. Shout out to the glass removal guys.
The glass.
So my wife is actually shorter than me, Jason.
No way.
Wow, really?
Yeah, but in order to
we need a picture.
There's ones on the internet. In order to lose my virginity,
the Farm girlie.
I needed to not be afraid of dating up. And so I'm really good at playing Tuning in Tokyo. If I have to put on a, like a booster seat to go on a first date.
Oh yeah.
My standing line is it doesn't matter when we're horizontal. And so,
Saying that you're taller laying down?
I'm saying there's a different measurement when I'm laying down. And,
Whoa.
And so, yeah, no, we are vertically challenged. We don't even use the upper shelf in the cabinets. Like, I don't know who those are for. I guess we could get one of those little things, like one of those little pusher claws on a handle, and I can grab things off. But like, that's all like dead equity.
You have a bunch of empty space. You have a bunch of empty space in your kitchen, Yarrow.
That's right. I need like
I can have a whole house full of storage I can use. I'm 6'2". I can just come in and just like use the extra shelves.
100%.
All day.
Oh my goodness. I want to go
100%.
take a picture next to Yarrow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we?
She said
And
she wants to
Jason.
play Tuning in Tokyo, and
Yeah,
I'm not
Tune
sure
in
I can
Tokyo.
do that.
That was the great game right there.
That's what she said.
remember
She
that,
said she
yeah.
wanted a picture. I'm like, I'll make you a star. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
exactly. I bet.
Be a great vanilla Oreo for you, Jenny. Great vanilla Oreo. You get right in the middle of that.
Hang on.
I got one more story for you guys, and I have to read this to you guys because it's a Monday, and it wouldn't be a proper Monday if there wasn't a proper amount of gaslighting from the federal government. Okay.
Gaslighting or gassing up?
Well, in this story, it is all about gassing up too, because the NTSB chief warns that people underestimate marijuana's impact on drivers, you guys. That's right. And Jennifer Hammondy's comments come after the NTSB determined that a 2022 Oklahoma crash that killed 6 teens was caused by a driver who likely was impaired by recent marijuana use and distracted by passengers. Okay, so just I want to make sure that you guys understand that they just said was killed. Oklahoma crash that killed 6 teens was caused by a driver who likely was impaired. Likely. So that means that they haven't proved it. They're just assuming this because for the sake of a story. So nonetheless, a horrific crash that killed 6 high school girls in Oklahoma 2 years ago has the head of the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board urging parents to warn teenagers about the risk of driving after using marijuana. NTSB Chair Jennifer Hammondy made the appeal to parents on Thursday as her agency released the final report on the March 22nd, 2022 collision between a tiny Chevrolet Spark hatchback and a gravel hauling semi in the small town of Tishomingo. The board, after an investigation by staff, determined that the crash was caused by the 16-year-old driver slowing for an intersection, then accelerating through a stop sign because she likely was impaired by recent marijuana use and was distracted by having 5 teen passengers in the car. In an interview, Hammondy also said that the cannabis problem isn't limited to teens, and as more states have legalized adult use marijuana, teens and adults tend to underestimate the risks of driving under the influence. And a quote, "There's a perception that in states where it is legal, that it's safe and legal to drive impaired on marijuana," she said. In its report on the crash, the NTSB cited studies showing that marijuana decreases motor coordination, slows reaction time, and impairs judgment of time and distance, all critical functions for driving. Currently, it's legal for people 21 and older to use marijuana for adult use in 24 states plus Washington, D.C., and according to the Insurance Institute for Highway and Safety, Oklahoma doesn't allow adult use, but like most states, it's legal for medical purposes. Driving while impaired by marijuana is illegal in all states and Washington, D.C. The NTSB, which investigates transportation-related crashes but has no regulatory power, put out a safety alert on Thursday urging parents to talk to young drivers about how marijuana can impair driving and how they can make responsible choices to avoid driving while impaired or riding with impaired drivers. Hammondy said that states that have legalized marijuana
marijuana are behind in making sure people know that it's illegal to drive under its influence. Over half of Americans live in a state where adult use cannabis use is legal, she said, and in a quote, unfortunately, I think state laws that are legalizing adult use and medical use of marijuana have really come before thoughts or action on what they are going to do about traffic safety, Homendy said. They are far ahead on legalizing it, but very far behind to traffic safety. States, she said, need to collect more data on legalizing marijuana has affected traffic safety, and they need to start enforcing laws against driving while impaired by cannabis. Enforcement has got to be there in order to deter, she said. One study on crashes in Washington state, which has legalized adult use marijuana use, showed that more drivers involved in fatal crashes tested positive for marijuana after it became legal, the NTSB said. And in Cheshimingo, about 100 miles southeast of Oklahoma City, 6 high school girls got into the car designed to carry for a lunch break, the NTSB reported. At an intersection, the driver slowed to 1 mile per hour but accelerated and didn't come to a complete stop for the Stein. Instead, she sped up and turned left in the front of the gravel truck. The truck driver braked and steered to avoid the spark, but hit the driver's side and just under 50 miles per hour. All 6 teens died of multiple blunt force injuries, and teens on blood taken from the driver's body found THC concentration of 95.9 nanograms per millimeter, and the NTSB said if such a level of THC, the main chemical component of marijuana, were found in a living person, it would indicate a high likelihood that the person had used cannabis very recently and therefore was likely still experiencing an acute impairment of impairing cannabis effects, the report said. But the NTSB cautioned that body cavity blood samples can sometimes be contaminated by other body fluids or by THC from other tissues, including the lungs, that may contain high concentrations. In addition, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol found vaping mouthpieces and cannabis buds in the car at the scene of the crash, the report said, and the NTSB recommended in the report that the Oklahoma State Department of Education develop a drug and alcohol abuse curriculum for local students, districts that tell students about the risk of cannabis-impaired driving. At present, only Massachusetts and Rhode Island have such course requirements, the NTSB said, and the agency also wants the Governor's Highway Safety Association, a group of state highway safety officers, the National Conference of State Legislators, and the National Association of State Boards of Education to inform members about the Cheshimingo crash and the need for cannabis information in school driver education coursework. The Safety Association said in a statement that cannabis-impaired driving is a growing safety concern, and state highway safety officers are focused on eliminating all impaired driving. And a quote says, "We have to start communicating well ahead of time to kids that driving, having ingested or smoked or inhaled marijuana is impairing, and it's a risk to them and a risk to others," Homendy said. Well, and this has been our final story of the day, and a proper gaslighting by the federal government, and I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say about this.
Have you ever been around 6 fucking teenage girls?
Yes.
It's a nightmare. I thought I was going to be cute and coach high school cheerleading, and I almost killed all of them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, I think distracted driving, but like, here we go again with this litmus test. Like, how do you decide when someone consumed cannabis?
Yeah, and just because there were buds in the car doesn't mean they didn't mention anything that they found ashes in the ashtray or anything else like that. So yeah,
but I think I almost feel like you're the industry codependent on this thing, right? Like, let's be real for a second. We have a distracted driving issue with teenagers. We also know that there's a difference between ingestion versus inebriation. And we also know that we've had a medical program in California since 1996, and we still don't have the science to allow a woman like this, who I would believe is trying to do her job, to have proper scientific guidelines with which to create a DUI program that is based on science. Right. And so they're at a real disadvantage. There's a real issue here. I don't want my kid in a car with another kid who's chomping on a blunt while they're driving down the road. I don't think any good comes from it.
But that's all in just teaching your kids not to, you know what I'm saying? That's just in good parenting.
Yeah, but listen, you don't have parents, and so teaching kids.
I don't need the government to parent
children.
Teaching kids is a never-ending process of failing forward, and so the idea that this isn't a real issue, the industry needs to embrace the risks the industry creates.
I'm not saying that it's not a real issue.
To support the science to allow enforcement agencies to issue DUIs when somebody is impaired. And when we say, well, it was in the car, but there wasn't any ash in the ashtray, like Jason, that's splitting hairs in a place where I don't think the industry should be splitting hairs.
I think we should, because my point of why I'm saying gaslighting is because they are only assuming that cannabis was evolved and creating this public fear around a crash that they don't even know if the girls smoked cannabis in. And I think that is just total gaslighting, and I'm not for that in any way whatsoever.
I mean,
here's where I disagree with you. When they say where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay, these teens got in an accident. The driver had it in their blood. They don't have any footage of them actually consuming.
Doesn't matter if they had it in their blood. You know it can stay in there for 30 days.
And so whether they were or were not, this is a case study for a bigger problem that industry should be supporting a solution for, which is that we don't yet have a way to measure scientifically what impaired driving is, and we need that.
I agree.
Can I say something to this?
For a long
time. Step in. Hey, let me talk.
Well, go ahead, Brandon.
So I was actually a guinea pig. I was actually a guinea pig for the Missouri Highway Patrol. So I think I've told this to you before, but I went down and took on my normal thing. Hey, you woke up in the morning, come be yourself. We're going to take all your baseline tests, your blood pressure, your heart rate, all that fun stuff. We're going to only give you 20 grams of O1 gummy. Then we're going to test you again. And they gave you a full field sobriety test. There were 7 of us that came in, said, hey, we're willing to take this cannabis and let you test us. And then they said, go have fun and do whatever you want. I took 240 milligrams of RSO on a cracker and still 3 of the 7 of us tested as anomalies, where our blood pressure, our heart rate did not increase, did not change. Our performance on the actual sobriety test itself increased. I was actually the best doing the sobriety test when I had smoked the most cannabis in their eyes. So, I am all for trying to find a way to be able to enforce that those people that have been impaired, are impaired, shouldn't be driving. But for people that consume regularly all the time to say, hey, because I have cannabis in my system means now I'm impaired to drive. For me, that's kind of a stretch.
Of course not. And we're not suggesting that Mothers Against Drunk Driving has this issue right. But if you want to stand up an opposition group called Crackers on RSO, you can do that for sure.
I mean,
why has it got to be crackers? Why? Listen, the chat has already been racist and acted like teenage girls today. We don't need to bait them any further.
I saw that. It's been toxic.
A lot of small dick energy happening in chat today. They tried to fire poor Chris Brady. We love him. He comes in for free every day and make sure that you guys don't act like bigger idiots.
Chris keeps it lively.
We love Chris.
Lively.
We're not firing him.
Yeah, he's teasing me about all sorts of things, and then when I'm not getting teased by him, I wonder what's wrong with me.
I don't know. I just feel like this is total gaslighting, and I do believe that it's a tragedy that these girls all lost their lives. They were at a very young age. It's super sad.
And we need science, Jason. We need science.
The one thing that I was going to agree with you.
People like this don't have to rely upon fuzzy logic about what is and is not impaired driving.
Well, the one thing I was.
But it's different for every person.
Hold on, Brandon. The one thing I was going to agree with you on, Yarrow, is that the reality is that there needs to be a industry-based solution for this. I totally agree with you on that, because if we allow the governments or other outside parties or regulators to come in, they're going to totally fuck it up, and there's going to be a lot of false positives where there wouldn't be. And I do think that that the state of California and other states should come out with some type of some kind of test, like actual driving test, to where then at that point it would show that you can drive with cannabis in your system, and you get like a little pot leaf on your driver's license next to your little donor sticker.
Not a little pot leaf on your driver's license. Jesus Christ. I mean, here's what I think. I think that we need to address cannabis and driving in adults who are probably developed enough to be driving. I don't think that 16-year-olds should get a license. I'm sorry to all the 16-year-olds out there. I get it's a rite of passage, but I think we need to bump that age on up to 18 because like we've time and time
That's
again,
fair.
we're seeing that these 16-year-olds are not mature enough, not responsible enough. Like you're
Especially
fighting with
nowadays.
your boyfriend, you're angry, you're texting him and driving, and like there's so much distraction.
Can you
on.
imagine what that car sounded like with 6 teenage girls in the car?
Can, and it's horrendous.
And Taylor Swift just pumping.
You took my lines. I was just gonna say it sounded like Taylor Swift and a bunch of tone deaf sing-alongs.
Also, how do you fit 6? What kind of car was this? It
was a little Spark.
They were sitting on each other's laps. It was only a 4-seater.
They were over capacity anyway, and I think most states have laws where at 16 you can't have passengers that are children as well in the car. And so like there's so many things that shouldn't have happened, and I hate to see, I'm so sad for those families that lost their daughters. That's horrendous. But I hate to see cannabis once again being blamed for what is absolute negligence.
Exactly.
But until we have those guidelines, it will continue to be scapegoated. And so that's what we need is guidelines for impaired driving, understanding that everybody has a different interaction with their endocannabinoid system, but we need to come up with standards, guidelines for impairment. And then that's the only cure here, because otherwise every single time that there's cannabis involved, it's going to be the redheaded stepchild, and it's always going to be blamed. It happened with Fiona Ma when she got hit by a driver, and they alleged that the driver, and she said, cannabis industry has to get themselves together. And I wrote a scathing op-ed back at her. Thank God Heidi Minks took out all the anger in my words and made it seem a little more lovey and touchy-feely. But cannabis is going to continue to be maligned until we have those guidelines, and so we need those guidelines desperately.
That's fair. I think those guidelines should be for adults, though, because like no one in this car, like here's the thing, all right? If I go out and do something illegal, there's not a litmus test for how illegal it was. Like 16-year-olds aren't allowed to smoke weed, period, point blank. It happens, but they're not. So there shouldn't be a litmus test on how they were impaired. It's 16-year-olds did some dumb shit, had a wreck. It's sad, but like those guidelines are going to fall into place for adults. Like this story is completely out of all that, period.
So here's my thing about it. In the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and even the 2000s, this was never, ever, ever an issue. But yet, cannabis was always available to people that wanted to get it. They just had to figure out how to get it, and people did. Okay? And so why this has all become an issue now is just totally beyond me, and I believe that it's a manufacturer crisis.
Speaking of manufacturing crises, we're way the fuck over time today.
We are way the fuck over time.
Oh yeah.
You okay, Yarrow? You with us over here? The Yarrow disappeared.
We miss him.
Oh man.
No, I'm like that guy in Pulp Fiction. I'm far from okay.
I'm far from okay. Oh boy.
Oh goodness.
Far from okay.
Man.
Do you think we have enough to put in our pipe and smoke it till tomorrow?
Yes. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to this insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst helping us keep these lights on over here.
Yeah.
And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely, truly amazing. Thank you all for giving us a reason to do this show every day. We do appreciate you spending your time with us. And thank you to Cloud Media partners. Sean filling in, man, coming through with the clutch. Thank you, Sean. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. It is America's #1 daily cannabis news show. I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
Hi, I'm Smoky Vanilla. I have my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on individuals that are in sport with chronic pain or injury. I love to intuitively create and customize a session based on the individual that I'm working with. We'll go over a few postural assessments, work together to create a wellness journey based on the health history, past injuries, or anything still affecting you today. And we'll get you back on your feet right away with less pain.
We're about to stretch, and then we're gonna smoke, because we're gonna get on our stretch and smoke. If you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to come on down and get a stretch and smoke with none other than Smoky Vanilla.
Yeet.